Chirohustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and to give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, Mango Voice, Community Healthcare Resources, Life Chiropractic College West, TrackStat, and MSculpt. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 462 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I am your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Matthew Breske. In this episode, you'll learn how to balance yourself with center point meditation. Stay tuned. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Today we have Matthew Breske on, coming in from the Netherlands. I think we're going to have a really good chat about meditation, thoughts, traumas, and toxins, and some of the deeper things that this chiropractic profession needs, and maybe some of the ideas about his journey and how he's finding his practice and his way over in Europe. But before we jump in with Dr. Matt, I just want to let you know the big why behind our show. Why do we do what we do? Well, Chiro Hustle believes in freedom of speech. I believe we are the freedom of speech platform for chiropractic. We let people talk about what is on their mind and what's important to them, namely the journey of the practitioner. But with that being said, we also support family freedom and medical freedom. I think these are things that are so important today. Over the past 3 years, people have seen how this has been a huge obstacle for people, and that's really why I've been supporting chiropractic for the past 14 years in some facet. We also believe in the sacred trust, protecting that and guarding that well. If you guys don't know what that is, go find BJ Palmer's last words, search on your favorite search engine and put BJ Palmer Sacred Trust. You'll know more about chiropractic after that than you ever did probably in your whole life. And then we also support subluxation-based chiropractic, innate intelligence, and universal intelligence. We believe that when a person, man or woman, gets adjusted, and connects man or woman, the physical, to man or woman, the spiritual. And I know that's going to be right up our alleyway today with Dr. Matt and some of the things that we're going to talk about, because there are thoughts, traumas, and toxins that are trapped in people's bodies. And sometimes it's so entrenched inside of them, we have to find out how to access that and how to relieve that. And sometimes it's through a physical adjustment, but sometimes it's by getting to the root cause of what's going on in someone's body. And I always tell people, I don't live in your body, so I don't know how you feel. But if you go to a good chiropractor and we actually start taking care of you, I know we can help you. So with that being said, Dr. Matt Breske, welcome to episode number 2 with you.
Thank you for having me again. It's good to be back on. It was I think a few years ago before COVID and everything came. And things have evolved over here in Europe a little bit in my end, and I'm very excited to be on the show today. Get to share more stuff with you and get to talk shop about our profession, the chiropractic profession.
Yeah, so let's just jump right in. And I know a big why behind who you are today. You've been creating a technique, if you will, called center point meditation. I'm going to put some links into the comments here just so people know that you do have a program that you want people to enroll in, and that they can come to your web store and they can get 50% off of anything inside of your web shop to the end of the year. So you guys have about 3 weeks to jump on this offer, but fortune favors the first early adopters. So I think that's also a good thing to segue to is take Matt up on this opportunity to learn more about center point meditation. But before we jump into like the meat and bones of today's chat, tell people a little bit more about your work around center point.
Well, first and foremost, I'm a chiropractor here working in the Netherlands, and years ago I had an experience with another colleague of mine, and my body got put into sort of a meditative state. That's why it's called a meditation. And I've been able to reverse engineer that experience to the point to where now it allows me to access subconscious information that's stuck in human body. And so it's giving me more information that can be helpful in assisting people through their adjustments, because I'm starting to, because of the method, I can pinpoint what subconscious cause is limiting their improvement. Sorry, I'm sometimes switching in Dutch I speak Dutch all day long, and sometimes in my brain I have to go back to English. So then when you figure out the thoughts component of the subluxations, like the thoughts, mental stress, emotions, how we feel, this method gives you the information you can use to basically share with the client why their pain keeps coming back. And a lot of this stuff is unknown. And when you ask them certain questions while you're doing the method, things get exposed that weren't exposed before. And it gives us a better ability to have the clients hold their adjustments longer, because they're aware of what's deep rooted causing their problem to come back all the time.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about that. And, people work themselves into a pattern, and they work themselves into a spot that obviously if they knew how to get out there of themselves, they would do it. We all would, if we all had the ability to just, cast it away and say, hey, I don't want to feel this in my neck or shoulder or elbow or back anymore. We would do that, but that's not the case. And that's one of the reasons why the chiropractic profession is so powerful, is because chiropractors do check the interference lines and see how that they can detect and correct that subluxation, whether it's physical, chemical, emotional. And I think that that's something that a lot of times the chiropractor doesn't know how to put to words or put into context or put into a system to teach people how to do anything other than the structural. And I think that once we look at the metaphysical world, the part above the atlas, which is the mind, there's a lot that we can discover. And I think the last time we had a conversation and an interview, we talked about the above atlas subluxation. And I think that there's a lot that we can still dive into that, because that's not a commonly discussed part of the chiropractic profession.
And if it isn't, it should be, because you're missing a huge component in the improvement of the patient's conditions by addressing that.
Well, I think a big problem why people drift away and they are here today and gone tomorrow after 1 to 2 adjustments with a PVA, a low PVA, is because you're not addressing the full person. You're just addressing a structural component of that person, and an adjustment, what you said, is it's helpful. But if you don't get to the root cause of why somebody is subluxated and they have like this entrenched thing inside of them, you're only looking at one dimension of that person.
Yeah. Totally. And the cool thing about Centerpoint is I teach people to do it themselves. It's really a simple thing to do. And when you can empower people to become less dependent on you and other practitioners and therapists, you give them the power. And that's very important, that people in this world become less dependent on the help that they might need when they can help themselves. And that's what I really like about it, because you give them a tool that they can always use, because we're not always available.
And the thing is it also is a component of a full-on hands-on adjusting practice.
Yeah.
It doesn't take anything away from a practice. It just enhances the ability to have that practitioner have something else as a resource for not only the person that needs care, but also for the practice itself.
Yeah. And that goes really in good in acquiring rapport with people, because when you start getting into those conversations about how a person thinks and how a person feels, they know that you care about them, because you that's important for future chiropractors and new chiropractors to know that the number one thing to keep your business running is to just care about people.
And that's
And
rapport building. And that's a part too, is a lot of times when I talk to people, they typically don't get care because they don't want to go to the doctor, because they don't know who to go to or who to trust. So if they actually make it to your doorstep and they actually come in and they take that first step and walk through your front door and meet you, we have to do a much better job at converting that person and listening to them.
yeah, and sometimes listening to them is difficult if they're not speaking. If they're not speaking what's going on, if it's hidden, if it's suppressed, if it's if it's not available for them to talk to you about it. And that's where I think it's cool, because I can do that method, and in 10 seconds I can have a conversation with them that they weren't technically ready to have, but it does expose some deep underlying issues that need to be addressed in order to help them the best that I can.
Well, I think there's three layers of communication that people will take with anybody. There's things they will say, there's things they won't say, and there's things they'll never say. So sometimes you have to let the body tell you, because the mouth doesn't always show up and tell you everything that you need to hear. That's why a chiropractor does exams. That's why you guys do full range of motion testing, and you do x-ray analysis, because you have to go and investigate parts of the human body that the person doesn't know how to speak about, because it's a deeper underlying concern that they're dealing with.
Yeah. And it's fun, because a lot of people, when we get into these conversations with the clients I work with, they usually say, well, I wasn't expecting something like that to be why I have pain in my back. And then you tie the biology to it, how mental stress increases the hormone production, the stress hormones go. You give them a very simplified version of how that works, and then it like clicks on them. They're like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. I have post-traumatic stress disorder. Oh, you do? That's interesting. So you think from the pattern from your history can create the pattern of your future too, because you're constantly getting triggered by these events. And if you can learn to control how you react to those emotional and mental feelings that come into the systems subconsciously, you're the driver then. That's the number one thing I want people to gain out of it, is to become the driver of your thoughts and feelings. If you think too much, you feel too much, or both of them too much, your system's going to get overloaded with tension, and at a certain point, your body can't compensate, adapt, and create homeostasis anymore, because your system is in a state of fight and flight because of your thoughts and feelings.
Well, we've been taught, Matt, that the chiropractor is really good at physical injury, recovering people's bodies from like an injury or a stressor. And that's kind of like commonplace. Like if there was any like box that the world has put chiropractic into, which I don't agree with, is their neck pain and back pain specialists. And they can fix you if you have like, a third tier or fourth tier, inflammation state, or that they can fix you if you have like a chronic thing going on, or they can fix you if you have some type of like a sports injury, or they can fix you if you've had some type of like an auto accident. Like those things have been very well documented and proven. But the part I believe that most people aren't looking into is the injuries to people's attitudes, the injuries to people's thought processes, the injuries. Like, you want to talk about the hardest injuries to recover from are soft tissue injuries? Well, the deeper lying injuries to recover from are thoughts and traumas of the mind and the emotional state. And I think that those are a part that with what you're doing is it's addressing that those topical like subject matters, and helping people find clarity with the practice, with the practitioner, and with the doctor themselves.
Yeah. And by addressing this and giving them the information, then you empower them too. And that's really what I really like about it as well, because we need to have those conversations. Otherwise, you're going to be limited on how you can help people. And you're going to, that's where we struggle too in the chiropractic profession, is at a certain point, they're like, why is my pain always coming back? Why is it always coming back? And that's what I was dealing with for the years of practice that I've had. And I didn't have an answer at a certain point. Now I do. Now I always have an answer for that, because I can do a diagnostic on it with the center point method, with the technique, and then within a few minutes I can ask them a question about their life, and then they're like, well, yeah, and then we connect the dots. And unfortunately, as we get into it, and what you're saying, how everybody views the chiropractic profession and what we do and how we fix neck pain, back pain, and all that stuff, that's where our philosophy in our profession has also been. That's what I wanted to get into. Our philosophy has also been kind of shifted, unfortunately, in the wrong direction as chiropractors, because I'm not fixing anybody. I'm facilitating them to be able to fix themselves. Mm-hmm. I'm not responsible for their healing. I can only heal me and my own self, but facilitating other people to heal themselves is where our philosophy has been lost, in the basic premise that the power that made the body heals the body.
Yeah, the body needs nothing. The body needs nothing extra in it, just simply no interference.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about in the medical world, Dr. Maz, you're talking about is, they call them flare-ups, but they're this entrenched situation. I don't know, thoughts, traumas, toxins inside of somebody's body that most practitioners don't know how to access. So what they do to make it easier on everybody is they focus on the structural problems.
Yeah, well, because that's what we're mostly taught in school. That's the majority of it. And when I went to Palmer, we had a lot of philosophy, which I really appreciate having. But I don't know how the school systems now are with their philosophy courses now, teaching what BJ and DD Palmer taught us all.
Well, I can't speak on it, and I've never been through a chiropractic school, or I've never been through a chiropractic program. I can just hope that they're doing the right thing for the future.
Yeah. But if not, then there's other people that are going to step up to make sure we shepherd the people that are getting out of school and guide them. And if any new chiropractors are listening, I really want and would encourage you to find a philosophical based mentor in our field to guide you through it, because it will benefit you in the long run.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, Mango Voice, Community Healthcare Resources, Life Chiropractic College West, TrackStat, and MSculpt. Let's hustle.
Yeah, earlier today I was kind of, somebody like labeled me as a stir in the pot. I made a post about people and is a chiropractor really a chiropractor if they don't know how to adjust? And I think that that's something also that we could riff on a little bit too before we talk about what it's like to practice abroad. But I do think that a lot of times I hear from other practitioners looking for a second set of hands to come on and work at their practice, and they're having a real challenge with people having competency and their adjusting techniques. And like you said, some of the philosophical resonance is moving away from the education and chiropractic schools that people are paying upwards of $300,000 to get a degree in. And then they come out and they might not have competency in the one thing that makes chiropractors unique, non-obvious and distinct in the health arts, which is the adjusting. And really what they only produce them for is to be able to pass a non-chiropractic exam with 4 parts that shows competency in anything but chiropractic.
Yeah. And they probably didn't learn. Yeah, I can't say that, but I don't, because I don't know, but there is maybe a possibility that they didn't learn the philosophy of, if you can improve the interference problem, and allow their body to be connected. There are techniques that don't require a lot of physical manual adjusting, like it's just stimulating the nervous system to perform better and function better. And then the body can also heal itself as well. But they're not learning that type of how to use your intention and how to use that aspect of our philosophy into their work.
Well, I'll just tell people chiropractic isn't physical therapy. And that's a line that we need to draw.
Yeah.
And I was also on another chat thread that I made the other day, and I was like, I said something about chiropractors adjusting once again, and I was on a different riff with it about how impressive it is that chiropractors have the ability to check, detect, and correct vertebral subluxations. And I think adjusting is a huge part. I was on a mastermind call today with the Chiropractic Futures group, and they were talking about what a chiropractor needs in their toolkit to be successful when they like upstart and they get out of school. And I was like, they were talking about all these things like a business plan and, software to use. And I go, hey guys, none of that matters unless they know how to adjust.
Yeah. And create results.
Yeah. And I think that that's a big part of our conversation today, though, as we discussed before we went live, is how does center point fit in to the competency of a practitioner, and how does it help them with their skills to actually get to the root cause and actually use their skills, not only doing the adjusting done by hand, but the adjusting to help people find where their pain is coming from.
So the question is how I use it for that?
Yeah. How can we teach people and adapt them into your system to not take away from but to enhance their practice?
You basically do a center point assessment on them, and I can do it by feeling, or I can do it by muscle testing. And I'm using the muscle testing in a certain way that allows me to know how the person has to sit in a position for 3 breaths. It takes 3 breaths in a position you have to put your body in to reset the brain disbalance. To basically, if you're thinking too much about the future, then there's a certain position you have to sit in. 3 breaths, your brain recalibrates, and the physical condition minimizes. It's noticeable. You get a direct result, and then without a doubt that the cause of that condition that we're testing is related to, for example, thinking about the future. And then you can have that conversation with them. Okay, what are you worried about? You can go into a list of many different things that are related to that direction with the technique, and then you at least can address that right away.
How closely is this related to Thurman Fleet's work with concept therapy?
It probably has a relation to where with Fleet's stuff, how he was accessing the subconscious and bringing that to the surface of the conscious level. So then you can kind of have that conversation with a person's subconscious by bringing it to the conscious point. And from what I heard about Thurman Fleet, in the end of his days working, he was just sitting there talking with people. He wasn't really touching them anymore. He was just telling them why they have their issue. And sometimes when you expose that, just by exposing it is enough to cause a lot of issues to go away. I've seen it.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I wanted to take you down that question set, is by what you're doing, you're bringing awareness to the person.
Yeah, and that's empowering that person. And sometimes it's not easy. And as a chiropractor, when you're involved in this type of work, you have to be ready to catch them when they hit an emotional reaction, because it's very important to know that it's perfectly normal for people to have an emotional reaction when we do this, because it comes from nowhere. Usually it comes with just the right question at that right time, and then it's triggered. And it's an amazing thing, because we just released a vibration in their system that was limiting their improvement.
Well, let's talk about the profession a little bit more. What would you say has been your biggest challenge to get more people into the center point meditation school or the center point meditation system?
Maybe it could be the word meditation. It could be that throws people off, and people think that it needs to be a long time, that you need to do this. The only reason we labeled it a meditation is because we know the body goes into a meditative state based on the research we've done so far. So we've had improvement of like a 14% improvement in somebody's heart rate variability within one 15-second session. We did a before and after assessment on their HRV, and that was super interesting to see. And the scientist working with us in a company called Brain Mechanics, he was shocked. He was like, and so now he's also a practitioner in the technique, because he's not only a brain scientist, he's also 16 years active in all meditation techniques. And he basically said that center point is a way that you can reach equanimity in seconds. Equanimity is like the state of Zen, balance. And he says, if you can reach that in seconds, then you enhance every single thing that you do after that. And that's was really cool to hear, because I'm not so experienced in other techniques in meditation. But we did call it that based on the reaction that we experienced when you do it. So I guess that could be a challenge, that people get thrown off by the name, and maybe they get thrown off. I've got videos on our website that show demos how to do it. Maybe they think it's too simple to be true.
Well, I think that it's just important for us to kind of have that conversation for people when they watch this episode, because they're going to say, okay, I went to the website, I saw that I can do a demo and get 20% off if I put Wellness Revolution 20 into the checkout, or I can get.
Oh, I put that wrong. It's the demo is $100 normally, and it's for $20 you get that. So the Wellness Revolution 20 is you get actually 80% off.
Okay.
So sorry about that.
Let me see if I can fix that somehow. But I mean, just moving forward though, I think that a lot of times people are going to say, well, how can I learn about this in a greater detail? And you're right. It is so simple for people to get access to and to learn. There's just some things that we have to do in order to get people to go there. So I think the website is centerpointmeditation.com.
Yeah.
And you have one that's an online workshop that they can do.
Yeah, well, I have an online workshop that covers like 4 modules where I teach everybody everything about it, on how to do and what each direction means. And that's a good beginning start. But also I have another pre-demo, which is basically me showing you how to do the practical aspects of it so you can feel it and experience it. And I'll do anything I can to show you everything about it, like in these demos, so people can experience how it works and how simple it is. And I've been working with this for a long time, so I know how to communicate it in a way that anybody can understand it. This isn't something it isn't brain science. It's a super simple technique. The cool thing is, the more we dive into its complexity, the more complex we find it. So that's where we're just at the beginning point of this. So I just want to get it in the hands of as many chiropractors as we can, so we can start getting people more connected to themselves. It's the number one goal I have, is to allow people to have access to this tool, because being balanced between your left and right brain allows you to have total peace with yourself. And I think it's a God-given right that everybody should have. That's a quote from the brain scientist I'm working with. So he said the exact same thing. He's like, every human being deserves to be able to know how to do this. And that's our mission.
Well, I think that there's a lot of great topics we covered today. Let's close out and talk a little bit about practicing abroad. How has that been for you? And You were over here in the States, it looks like 6 years, and then you went over there and you've been practicing over there for 6 years. So what's it like practicing over in the Netherlands?
Speaking a different language is a little bit tricky because certain things get taken out of, like if I try to speak Dutch in a certain way using my English logic, things get lost in translation. And that's a little bit of a challenge. And but the community here is very receptive to chiropractic because of the results that they get. And that's where it's cool, because in the Netherlands, we only have maybe between 400 and 500 chiropractors total for a country of almost 20 million.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot of work to do. So if anybody listening, also there's always going to be work in the Netherlands for chiropractors. Mm-hmm. And so the challenge is getting people to as well understand that chiropractic is also an investment in your health, and they think that we are physiotherapists or physical therapists here too. They think that we just crack bones. Physical therapists do muscles. So getting the communication about how chiropractors aren't joint specialists, we are nervous system specialists. So in order to address the nervous system, we have to know everything inside and out, up and down, top and bottom. We have to know all of how the body works in order to address the nervous system. So getting that communication to the clients is definitely necessary.
Well, I think that the Dutch people have also been brought up in a world where least invasive is better, and anything that can save them from having more toxicity or more invasive procedures, they've always been interested in that preventative care, and it's been a part of their medical system for a long time. And I think that that's something that's also playing in your favor, is you have a more adept group of people that are looking for something that's not a pill, a potion, or a lotion.
Yeah, and a lot of the Dutch people are waking up now to certain things that we don't have to talk about, but certain things that certain authorities recommend people do to themselves based on fear and based on no science behind it, no results behind it. So in the beginning, a lot of people would get in line for this thing, and now they're saying, no, I don't have to do any more of that. That's bullshit. And so that's what's nice to see, is that the Dutch people are waking up to that fact that certain things that the government recommends isn't necessarily in our best interest.
I could speak about that for another 2 to 3 days, but I believe that people should be more empowered. I think Centerpoint is something that's helping empower people. I believe that the work that you're doing, like you said, we're just getting started, and there's a lot of people that need to know what's best for them, and they don't know how to make that decision on their own. So thanks for being a trusted resource with Centerpoint.
And if anybody listening, like you guys come on the demos that we have them now every Thursday at 3:30 Eastern time, every Thursday from now until the 22nd. The 22nd will be the last one. So we have one in 2 days, the 15th and the 22nd. So we have 3 more. And that's where basically you bring a condition you have, or you bring somebody, you even want to bring a family member that has a condition. And during this demo, we're going to address how we can resolve some amount, or not all the amount, of pain or discomfort the person has just by center pointing. And then when you can see and witness how powerful it can be without me even being there to touch the person, then I will give you every answer about why it works and how it works and how you can implement it in your practice. Because the number one thing that I do in our program and in our practitioner program is I teach people how to integrate center point into whatever they're doing, whatever technique they're using. And it's not something that's like, this is the best, center point is the only thing in the world. Center point is designed to mesh with everything. It is a connector. It is a vernacular necessary to have for people to better understand themselves.
Well, Dr. Matt, I couldn't have said it better myself. Let's get people center pointed and join one of his demos and see if it can help you guys out yourselves possibly and your practice. So this is episode 462, and really thankful to have you on today. Thanks for making time.
Hey, man. Thank you for having me, and everybody, take care of yourself and stay relaxed.
All right. Have a great night.
Yeah.
Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.